They lied to us. For months, we've been watching what we thought was Seth Rollins building something revolutionary with the Vision, but it was all a sham. Paul Heyman just orchestrated the most devastating betrayal in modern WWE history at Crown Jewel, and if you think you know what happened, think again. This wasn't just a simple turn, this was a calculated, methodical destruction of everything Seth Rollins believed in, and the mastermind behind it all has been pulling strings since WrestlePalooza. The moment that Pyro hit and Brock Lesnar's music echoed through the arena in Saudi Arabia, the entire wrestling world stopped breathing. But here's what's going to absolutely destroy you: this wasn't a last-minute decision. This wasn't some backstage disagreement that boiled over. This was planned from day one, and we have the receipts that prove Paul Heyman has been playing Seth Rollins like a fiddle for months. Stick around because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about the Vision, and by the end of this video, you'll be questioning every single WWE storyline you've ever watched. Before we dive into this nuclear bomb of a revelation, I need you to destroy the like button harder than Brock Lesnar destroyed Seth Rollins' dreams. Subscribe to Wrestling News CC and smash that notification bell because we're about to expose secrets that WWE didn't want you to know, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next in this saga. Let's rewind to Crown Jewel, and I'm going to walk you through every single devastating moment that led to the implosion of the Vision. Seth Rollins walked into that arena thinking he had an army behind him. The architect, the visionary, the man who claimed he was building the future of WWE, he genuinely believed Paul Heyman was his most trusted advisor, his strategist, his mouthpiece to the world. Boy, was he wrong. The match was progressing exactly as everyone expected. Seth was dominating, the Vision members were surrounding the ring, everything seemed to be going according to plan. But then Paul Heyman started acting different. His body language changed. The cameras caught him checking his watch repeatedly, looking toward the entrance ramp with this knowing smirk that nobody understood at the time. Commentary brushed it off as Heyman being his typical neurotic self, but we know better now, don't we? Here's where it gets insane. As Seth was setting up for the stomp, ready to secure what should have been his crowning moment, Paul Heyman grabbed the microphone. Everyone thought he was about to deliver another one of his legendary promos hyping up Seth's inevitable victory. Instead, he said 5 words that will echo through WWE history forever: ladies and gentlemen, my beast incarnate. The arena erupted. Not Rollins' music. Not a Vision member's theme. Brock Lesnar's music hit, and the place went absolutely nuclear. Seth's face told the entire story: confusion, disbelief, betrayal, rage, all cycling through in milliseconds. He was screaming at Heyman, "What are you doing?" But Heyman just stood there with that sinister smile. The same smile he had when he turned on CM Punk, the same smile he had during every major betrayal in his legendary career. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. Let me ask you this: when do you think Heyman actually started planning this betrayal? Drop your answer in the comments because most of you are going to get this wrong. Brock Lesnar walked down that ramp like he owned the place, because in Paul Heyman's world, he does own the place. This wasn't the Brock we've seen before. This was something different. He was wearing the Vision's colors, modified with his own intimidating style. The symbolism was perfect. Brock wasn't joining the Vision, he was conquering it, taking it over, making it his own personal destruction machine. Seth tried to mount an offense. Give credit to the architect, he didn't back down even when his entire world was collapsing around him. But with Heyman's guidance, the Vision members turned on Seth simultaneously. Every single person he recruited, every superstar he convinced to follow his vision for WWE's future, they all revealed their true loyalty, and it was never to Seth Rollins. The beating that followed was brutal. We're talking about a systematic destruction that felt personal, calculated, designed not just to win a match but to break Seth Rollins' spirit completely. Brock hit F5 after F5, and between each one, Heyman was in Seth's face, screaming things the microphones couldn't quite pick up but we could read his lips. He was telling Seth, "You were always just a placeholder. This was my vision, not yours." The Crown Jewel crowd was absolutely losing their minds. Saudi Arabia has seen some incredible WWE moments, but this might go down as the most shocking angle ever performed in that country. Social media exploded instantly. Within minutes, Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, and Seth Rollins were all trending worldwide. Wrestling Twitter was in absolute chaos with people trying to process what they just witnessed. Now, here's where we need to go back and connect the dots that WWE has been dropping since WrestlePalooza, because this storyline is so much deeper than what happened at Crown Jewel. When Seth Rollins first announced the Vision at WrestlePalooza, remember how Paul Heyman inserted himself into the equation? Everyone thought it was brilliant, Seth getting the greatest advocate in wrestling history to help legitimize his new faction. But let me show you what we missed. Go back and watch Heyman's promos during the Vision's formation. Really watch them. He never actually says Seth is the permanent leader. He uses phrases like current visionary and the man leading us now. The breadcrumbs were there the entire time. Heyman was speaking in coded language, telling us exactly what was going to happen, but we were all too caught up in the excitement of the Vision to notice. Here's another question for the comments: which Vision member do you think knew about the plan from the beginning? I'll give you a hint: their body language in older footage is very telling. But the real smoking gun comes from something we uncovered that WWE never aired on television. Behind-the-scenes reports from multiple sources confirm that Brock Lesnar was backstage at multiple events over the past 3 months, but he was never shown on camera. Think about that. The Beast Incarnate was literally hiding in the shadows while Seth Rollins paraded around thinking he was building his empire. Brock was studying, planning, preparing to take everything Seth created. Our sources indicate that Heyman and Lesnar were having secret meetings in undisclosed locations between shows. These weren't casual conversations, these were strategic planning sessions where they mapped out every detail of the Vision's takeover. They studied Seth's psychology, his patterns, his trust issues from past betrayals, and they used all of it against him. The genius of Heyman's plan was making Seth believe he was finally in control of his own destiny. After years of being betrayed by the Authority, by the Shield brothers, by everyone he ever trusted, Seth thought he was the one pulling strings this time. He thought he learned from all those betrayals and became smarter, more careful. But Heyman is a master manipulator, and he knew exactly how to exploit Seth's desperate need to prove he could lead. Remember when the Vision started recruiting members and there was that period where they seemed to be targeting very specific superstars? Seth thought he was making those choices, but looking back with this new information, it's obvious that Heyman was steering every single decision. He was building an army that would be loyal to power, not to ideals. Superstars who would follow the strongest leader, not the most inspiring one. And when Brock Lesnar, the most dominant force in WWE history, revealed himself as the true alpha, those members switched allegiances instantly. Let's talk about what this means for the WWE landscape moving forward, because this is where things get really interesting. The Vision under Seth Rollins was supposed to be about evolution, about changing WWE's culture and creating opportunities for the future. But the Vision under Brock Lesnar? That's something completely different and far more dangerous. Brock doesn't care about evolution or opportunity. He cares about domination. With Paul Heyman's strategic mind and Brock's unstoppable force combined with a full faction backing them, we're looking at potentially the most destructive force WWE has ever seen. This isn't like the Authority or the Bloodline or any other dominant faction in history. This is something uniquely terrifying because it combines Brock's legitimacy as an actual fighter, Heyman's genius-level strategic thinking, and a roster of hungry superstars willing to do anything to stay in the Beast's good graces. Think about the champions right now across all WWE brands. Every single one of them just became a target. Brock Lesnar with a faction backing him means no champion is safe. The Vision members can soften up opponents, handle interference, create advantageous situations, while Brock just has to show up and conquer. It's the perfect system for accumulating gold and consolidating power. But here's a question that's driving wrestling fans crazy right now: what does this mean for the Brock Lesnar vs. Roman Reigns dynamic? Drop your theories in the comments because this potential collision course is massive. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline have been WWE's dominant force for years now. The Tribal Chief has run roughshod over everyone in his path, creating arguably the most successful faction run in modern WWE history. But now he's facing something he's never dealt with before: Brock Lesnar with the organizational backing of a full faction and Paul Heyman's strategic genius. The history between these two is legendary. Their matches have main event multiple WrestleManias, they've beaten each other senseless countless times, and they've been positioned as WWE's two most dominant forces for years. But this is different because the power dynamics have shifted dramatically. Roman has the Bloodline, but the Vision under Brock's leadership might be even more ruthless and unpredictable. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: Seth Rollins and where he goes from here. This man just had his entire world demolished. Everything he built, every superstar he recruited, every plan he made, it was all ripped away in one devastating night. The psychological damage alone is catastrophic. Seth's character has always been defined by betrayal. He betrayed the Shield and broke up the most beloved faction in modern wrestling. Then he was betrayed by the Authority, by his friends, by almost everyone he's worked with. He tried to rebuild trust by forming the Vision, by being a different kind of leader, by doing things the right way. And what happened? He got betrayed again by the one person he thought he could trust implicitly. The storytelling possibilities here are endless. Does Seth go completely unhinged? Does he become a lone wolf who trusts nobody? Does he try to rebuild and recruit new members who actually believe in his original vision? Or does he do something nobody expects and somehow find a way to expose divisions within the new vision and reclaim what was stolen from him? Here's what's fascinating about Seth's position: he's actually been here before in different forms. When the Shield broke up, he had to reinvent himself. When the Authority turned on him, he had to evolve again. Seth Rollins is arguably the most adaptable superstar on the roster, and his ability to transform himself in response to betrayal is actually one of his greatest strengths. But this time feels different because it's more personal. Heyman didn't just betray Seth for business reasons or championship opportunities. This was psychological warfare. Heyman made Seth believe he was building something meaningful, something that would last and change WWE forever. The betrayal wasn't just about a match or a title, it was about destroying Seth's identity as a leader and a visionary. Let me ask you this: how should Seth Rollins respond to this betrayal? Should he seek revenge immediately, or should he play the long game? Comment your booking ideas because I want to hear what the Wrestling News CC community thinks. Now let's break down the Vision's new structure under Brock Lesnar, because the hierarchy has completely changed and it's fascinating. With Seth, the Vision was supposed to be somewhat democratic, with members having input and everyone working toward a collective goal. But Brock doesn't operate that way. He's a conqueror, not a collaborator. The new structure is more like a traditional hegemony, with Brock as the undisputed alpha and Heyman as his mouthpiece and strategic advisor. The other Vision members aren't partners anymore, they're soldiers in Brock's army. And that creates a very different dynamic, because if any member steps out of line or fails to meet Brock's standards, they could be destroyed just like Seth was. This creates incredible storytelling opportunities within the faction itself. Who's going to be brave enough to stand up to Brock? Which members might start having second thoughts about the hostile takeover? Are there any Vision members who might have actually been loyal to Seth's original ideals and could become internal saboteurs? The potential for faction warfare is huge. Paul Heyman's role in all of this cannot be overstated. This is what makes him the greatest manager in wrestling history. Think about his track record. He's been involved in some of the most memorable betrayals, faction turns, and shocking moments in wrestling history. He managed the original ECW, he's been the advocate for Brock Lesnar, he was part of the bloodline with Roman Reigns, and now he's orchestrated this masterpiece of manipulation with the Vision. What makes Heyman so dangerous is his ability to identify exactly what people need to hear and then say it with such conviction that they believe him completely. Seth Rollins genuinely thought Heyman believed in his vision for WWE's future. Heyman probably told Seth things like, "You remind me of a young CM Punk," or "You have the leadership qualities I've always looked for," things that would appeal directly to Seth's ego and insecurities. And Seth bought it completely. Here's a deep question for the longtime wrestling fans: where does this betrayal rank in Paul Heyman's career of legendary turns? Is this his greatest work, or do you think his previous betrayals were more impactful? Let me know in the comments. The timing of this reveal is also crucial to understanding WWE's current direction. Crown Jewel has become one of WWE's biggest premium live events, and they've consistently used it for major storyline developments. But this might be the biggest Crown Jewel moment since the event started. This wasn't just a title change or a surprise return. This was a complete faction takeover that reshapes WWE's entire power structure. By doing this at Crown Jewel rather than WrestleMania or SummerSlam, WWE is signaling that every premium live event matters now. They're not saving the big moments exclusively for the traditional Big Four anymore. This creates an environment where anything can happen at any event, which keeps fans invested and prevents predictability. Now let's talk about the immediate fallout and what we can expect in the coming weeks. The first Raw after Crown Jewel is going to be insane. Seth Rollins is definitely going to want answers, confrontations, and revenge. But here's the thing: the Vision now controls significant power in WWE's hierarchy. They have numbers, they have Brock Lesnar's dominance, and they have Heyman's strategic genius. Seth is effectively going up against an army by himself. WWE could go several directions here. They could have Seth start recruiting his own army of superstars who were screwed over by the Vision. They could have him take a more guerrilla warfare approach, attacking Vision members when they least expect it. Or they could go the psychological route, with Seth trying to plant seeds of doubt within the Vision's ranks, exploiting the fact that most of those members originally joined for different reasons than serving Brock Lesnar. Another huge question is what happens with the championship scene. Let's say you're the world heavyweight champion right now, you're terrified. You know that Brock Lesnar is coming for that title, and he's bringing an entire faction with him. Traditional championship booking goes out the window when the challenger has multiple people who can interfere, distract, soften up opponents, whatever it takes to get that title on Brock. The other champions across WWE should also be concerned because the Vision could decide to target multiple titles simultaneously. They could create a scenario where Vision members hold championships across all brands, effectively controlling WWE's entire championship landscape. That would be unprecedented in modern WWE. Here's something fascinating to consider about the long-term storytelling. This could be building toward a massive WrestleMania showdown. Imagine if by WrestleMania season, the Vision has accumulated multiple championships, destroyed everyone in their path, and established complete dominance. Then Seth Rollins spends months building his own counter-faction or finding unexpected allies, leading to a massive faction warfare match on the grandest stage of them all. We could see something like a traditional Survivor Series elimination match but at WrestleMania, or maybe even something more creative like a War Games style match. The possibilities are endless, and WWE has months to build the tension and create must-see television leading up to that potential confrontation. Let me ask you this, what match type would be perfect for Seth Rollins to get his revenge on the Vision? War Games? Elimination Chamber? Traditional Survivor Series match? Or something completely different? Drop your ideas in the comments. There's also the question of babyface versus heel dynamics here. Seth Rollins was positioned as a tweener or even slight heel as the Vision's leader because his methods were sometimes questionable. But after this betrayal, he's instantly the ultimate babyface. The fans will rally behind him because everyone loves a revenge story, especially when someone gets betrayed as brutally as Seth did. Meanwhile, Brock Lesnar is typically cheered despite being positioned as a heel because he's such a legitimate badass that fans respect him. But taking over someone else's faction through manipulation and betrayal might actually get him legitimate heel heat, especially if the Vision starts targeting fan-favorite babyfaces across the roster. The interesting dynamic is Paul Heyman because fans love Heyman regardless of whether he's managing a heel or face. His promos are so entertaining that people cheer him even when he's saying terrible things. So WWE has to be careful about how they book Heyman in this storyline to make sure the Vision actually gets the heat they're supposed to get rather than being cheered as cool heels. Now let's dive into the secret meetings between Heyman and Lesnar that our sources have revealed. These meetings weren't just casual backstage conversations, they were calculated planning sessions that would make chess grandmasters impressed. According to multiple insiders, Heyman and Brock started discussing this takeover shortly after Seth first approached Heyman about joining the Vision. Think about that timeline. From almost day one of the Vision's existence, Paul Heyman was already planning its hostile takeover. He saw Seth Rollins building something with potential, recognized that it could become a powerful faction, and immediately started plotting how to steal it for Brock Lesnar. That's not just betrayal, that's predatory genius. The meetings reportedly covered everything: which superstars to recruit that would be loyal to power rather than ideals, how to position Seth as a trusting leader who wouldn't see the betrayal coming, when to strike for maximum impact, how to ensure the Vision members would immediately fall in line behind Brock, everything down to the smallest details. One particularly interesting detail from our sources: Heyman apparently studied Seth's previous betrayals extensively, analyzing what worked and what didn't when others turned on him. He identified Seth's psychological weak points, his need to prove himself as a leader, his desire to be trusted after being the betrayer himself for so long, his belief that he could create something lasting and meaningful. Heyman weaponized all of those needs against Seth. Here's a thought-provoking question: do you think any of the Vision members suspected what Heyman was planning, or were they all completely in the dark until Crown Jewel? Share your theories. The secret meetings also covered contingency plans for different scenarios. What if Seth figured out the plan early? What if some Vision members refused to follow Brock? What if the Crown Jewel crowd reaction was too sympathetic to Seth? Heyman reportedly had backup plans for everything, which is why the takeover went so smoothly despite being such a risky maneuver. Brock Lesnar's involvement in these meetings is particularly interesting because Brock isn't typically known for his patience with long-term storytelling. He's a show up, destroy everyone, leave kind of performer. But this required months of staying hidden, letting Seth think he was in control, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That shows a different side of Brock: calculated, patient, willing to play the long game for the right payoff. The financial aspect is also huge. Brock Lesnar's contract situation has been discussed extensively in wrestling media, and this angle potentially locks him in for a significant extended run. By making him the leader of WWE's most powerful faction, WWE is essentially guaranteeing that Brock will be featured prominently across multiple storylines for the foreseeable future. From WWE's business perspective, this is brilliant. Brock Lesnar is one of their biggest draws, and having him lead a faction means he doesn't have to work as many matches to maintain his presence. The Vision members can handle weekly television while Brock appears for key moments, promos, and major premium live event matches. It's the perfect situation for maximizing Brock's value while managing his schedule. Now let's address the elephant in the room regarding the wrestling media and dirt sheets. Multiple wrestling journalists claimed they had insider information about the Vision's future, and none of them predicted this Brock Lesnar takeover. That's actually impressive from WWE's perspective, because it means they successfully kept this angle secret despite the prevalence of backstage leaks in modern wrestling. WWE has been making conscious efforts to prevent major spoilers from leaking, and this might be their biggest success story yet. In an era where rumors spread instantly online and fans often know major angles weeks in advance, actually surprising the wrestling audience is incredibly difficult. But they pulled it off with this Vision takeover. Here's a fun question for the hardcore wrestling fans: did you see this coming at all, or were you completely shocked? Be honest in the comments. The international reaction to this angle has been massive. Wrestling fans in Japan, Mexico, Europe, and across the world are all talking about the Vision's takeover. Social media engagement numbers are through the roof, which is exactly what WWE wants from a major angle. This has the potential to be one of those moments people remember years from now when discussing the greatest wrestling angles of the 2020s. The merchandise opportunities alone are insane. New Vision t-shirts with Brock's imagery, Paul Heyman catchphrase merch, Seth Rollins betrayed merchandise for fans who support him. WWE's merchandising team is probably working overtime right now to capitalize on this angle's popularity. Looking at historical comparisons, this ranks up there with some of wrestling's greatest faction takeovers and betrayals. It has shades of the NWO's formation, the Authority's manipulation tactics, and the Shield's breakup all rolled into one explosive storyline. The difference is the modern context and how WWE can leverage social media and global reach to make this even bigger than those historical moments. Let's talk about match quality implications. One criticism of Brock Lesnar has always been that his matches can be formulaic and that he doesn't work frequently enough for sustained storylines. But as the leader of the Vision, Brock can be part of multi-man matches, faction warfare, and various match stipulations that showcase different aspects of his ability. Imagine a War Games match with the Vision members all working together with Brock as the anchor. Or elimination tag matches where Brock comes in as the closer to finish off weakened opponents. The booking possibilities are endless, and they allow Brock to work a less physically demanding style while still being positioned as the dominant force. For Seth Rollins, this opens up incredible match opportunities as well. Seth is arguably the best in-ring worker in WWE right now, capable of having excellent matches with anyone. The revenge tour he's about to go on could produce some instant classics if WWE gives these matches proper time and builds. One potential dream match scenario: Seth Rollins vs. Brock Lesnar in a match where if Seth wins, he gets to choose one Vision member who has to leave the faction permanently. That creates huge stakes because Seth could strategically target Heyman himself, forcing Brock to operate without his advocate's strategic genius. The storytelling possibilities are incredible. Here's another booking question: if you were booking Seth Rollins' revenge storyline, what would be his first target? Would he go after Vision members one by one, target Paul Heyman specifically, or try to challenge Brock Lesnar immediately? Let me know your fantasy booking. The women's division could also be affected by this angle. If the Vision decides to expand and recruit female superstars, that could create fascinating cross-gender faction storylines. Imagine if someone like Shayna Baszler, who has the MMA credibility that fits Brock's aesthetic, joined the Vision. That would add a whole new dimension to the faction's power. Tag team wrestling is another area where the Vision's new structure could create interesting dynamics. They could field multiple tag teams from their roster of members, essentially controlling the tag team division across brands. That forces babyface teams to unite against a common enemy, creating natural alliance storylines. The cruiserweight and mid-card title scenes could become battlegrounds as well. If the Vision's lower tier members start targeting those championships, it elevates those titles' importance while also creating opportunities for heroic babyfaces to oppose the Vision's expansion. It's smart storytelling that affects the entire roster rather than just the main event scene. International touring presents interesting opportunities too. With the Vision as WWE's top heel faction, they can be featured prominently during international tours, creating location-specific angles and matches. Imagine the Vision invading a UK stadium show or running roughshod through a Latin American tour. The heat would be nuclear. Now let's address some potential criticism of this angle. Some fans might argue that faction warfare has been overdone in WWE recently with the Bloodline's dominance. But here's why this is different. The Vision under Brock combines the legitimate fighting credibility of Brock Lesnar with faction tactics, creating something we haven't really seen before at this scale. The Bloodline worked because of family dynamics and Roman's tribal chief character. The Vision works because of Brock's conqueror mentality combined with Heyman's strategic manipulation and a roster of ambitious superstars willing to do whatever it takes. It's a different flavor of faction dominance that can coexist with or even oppose the Bloodline without feeling repetitive. Another potential criticism is that Seth Rollins playing the betrayed babyface might feel redundant given his history. But WWE can address this by having Seth acknowledge his past as a betrayer and use that experience to understand Heyman and Brock's tactics. It adds depth to his character rather than just repeating old storylines. The pacing of this storyline will be crucial moving forward. WWE can't rush Seth's revenge because that cheapens the betrayal's impact. But they also can't drag it out so long that fans lose interest. Finding that sweet spot where tension builds naturally and payoffs feel earned will determine whether this becomes an all-time great storyline or just another angle. Here's a pacing question for you. How long should WWE wait before Seth Rollins gets a major victory over the Vision? Should it happen within weeks, or should they build for months toward a WrestleMania payoff? Comment your thoughts. The promo battles between these characters are going to be legendary. Paul Heyman is arguably the greatest talker in wrestling history. Seth Rollins is an excellent promo who can do comedy, intensity, and everything in between. When these two start cutting promos on each other with the betrayal as the backdrop, we're going to get some truly memorable television moments. Brock Lesnar's role in promos is interesting because he typically lets Heyman do most of the talking. But we've seen Brock cut intense promos when motivated, and this storyline might bring out that side of him more often. Imagine Brock getting in Seth's face and talking trash about how Seth was never strong enough to lead the Vision properly. The intensity would be off the charts. The psychology of professional wrestling is on full display with this angle. At its core, wrestling storytelling is about emotion, making fans feel something strongly enough that they become invested in outcomes. This betrayal generates genuine anger and sympathy, which are the exact emotions you want for creating compelling babyface versus heel dynamics. WWE's production team deserves massive credit for how they executed the Crown Jewel reveal. The camera work, the timing of Brock's entrance, capturing Seth's facial expressions, getting crowd reactions, all of it combined to create a truly memorable visual moment that will be replayed for years in video packages and retrospectives. Social media integration is another modern element that makes this angle more impactful than similar storylines from previous eras. Fans can immediately share their reactions, create memes, and engage in real-time discussions about the betrayal. WWE can monitor this engagement and adjust their storytelling based on what resonates most with audiences. The international business implications are significant. Crown Jewel taking place in Saudi Arabia means this angle will be remembered as a major moment in WWE's Saudi partnership. It shows WWE's willingness to put major storyline developments in these events rather than just nostalgia acts and exhibition matches. That strengthens the credibility of international premium live events moving forward. Let's wrap this up by talking about what makes this particular betrayal and takeover so special compared to others in wrestling history. It's the combination of elements: Heyman's masterful manipulation, Brock's overwhelming dominance, Seth's perfect positioning as a sympathetic victim despite his own history, the Vision's infrastructure already being established, and the global stage of Crown Jewel all coming together in one perfect storm of storytelling. This is the kind of angle that creates wrestling legends. Years from now, fans will talk about remember when Brock took over the Vision from Seth, the same way they talk about Hogan's NWO turn or the Shield's breakup. It's a genuine historically significant moment in WWE storytelling, and we were all fortunate enough to witness it happen live. So here's my final question for the Wrestling News CC community: what happens next? Do you think Seth eventually regains control of the Vision, or does he destroy it completely out of revenge? Does someone unexpected emerge as Seth's ally in this war? Will we see the Vision versus the Bloodline in an ultimate faction showdown? The possibilities are endless, and I want to hear your predictions. Make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling News CC with notifications turned on because this storyline is going to develop rapidly, and you don't want to miss a single update. We'll be breaking down every twist, every turn, every secret revealed as this epic saga continues. The wrestling world will never be the same after Crown Jewel, and we're going to cover every shocking moment right here. This is Wrestling News CC, and remember, in WWE, nobody is safe from betrayal, nothing is as it seems, and anything can happen. Stay tuned for more incredible wrestling coverage. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.